This is the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Ashley.
Together, we have been making money online collectively for over 10 years.
Our mission is to help you start, learn, and grow a reselling business and to inspire you to turn your paycheck into a daycheck.
The world is changing, and we want to help you change with it. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about different things that you can do to boost your eBay sales. I know that's one of the frustrations that resellers have is when they first start selling on eBay, they get all excited when they get their first couple sales, they start building it up, and then all of a sudden they don't have any sales and get really frustrated. So we have a lot of tips that will help you because we have dealt with it ourselves and it's completely normal. It's something you will go through, but there are some things that will definitely help boost those sales, and we want to share them with you right now.
Yep, absolutely. So we also asked on Twitter, I think it was like a week or two ago, if anyone else had different hacks or tips that we had not heard of. And we're going to give you the user responses that we got as feedback from that question as well. The number one thing, I think being from, we kind of had this, on our notes ourselves, but Reezy Resells actually commented, and his hack was that instead of having like a big listing day where you list 100 items, spread that out over the course of a week. So list like 10 things a day for 10 days or so. The algorithm likes it when you're active. So if you go one day and you have all this activity, you might see a boost in sales for that day or the next day. But if you have, consistent activity over like a period of time, that's much better. The algorithm loves that versus like that one big listing day. And that's kind of something that we had in our notes too. Instead of one big listing day, spread those listings out over the course of, the week, and then, do it again the next week, basically.
There's a few different ways you can do that as well. Maybe you are in a position where you can't physically list items every single day that week. So maybe you do a bunch of listings one day. You can either save them as draft in eBay and then every day go in and make those drafts go live. Or I know people who will go in and they'll pay to schedule their drafts. So they automatically publish daily. So that's another option as well. It does cost you money. I believe it's 10 cents, 25 cents a listing. It's not much. But it will help you. Then that way, you're not going to have to go in every single day and make the drafts go live.
Right.
If you schedule them, they'll do it automatically for you. For me, I don't absolutely love listing daily, but if you make it part of your day, like maybe that's the first thing you do before you start shipping out items, do that task. If it's something you don't enjoy, do it first. And maybe you're more likely to be consistent with it. Or I use our reseller planner, and it has like a little spot at the bottom of the page to keep track of how many listings I'm doing per day. So even just tracking how many you're doing will make you realize, oh, wow, I wasn't listing as many as I thought, or maybe you're hitting those goals and you're definitely reaping the benefits of listing daily and getting more sales. Another thing that you will hear a lot of resellers do is what's called end listings and sell similar. So when you're listing an item, you have a start date of that item. So maybe you listed it on July 1st of 2021, but if you have it relisting automatically every single month and it's not selling, then you're telling eBay that item is probably not really desirable, and there could be things wrong with the listing. But in general, if you have really old listings, a hack is to go in, select those listings, end them, and then go back in and choose sell similar instead of relisting. Because if you relist it, then it's just going to still have that original start date. If you do sell similar, then you're going to have a new start date, and that tells eBay, hey, here's a new listing. It'll show up higher when people search versus your old listing that's going to get buried with all the other ones. And I know that's something that a lot of resellers do. You can do maybe all of your items, do that and try it, or just look at maybe the ones that are the 25 oldest listings, go in and try ending them and sell similar. See if that will help get some sales.
Yeah, definitely. I know that a lot of people use that tactic, and it really does seem to work well for a lot of eBay sellers. The next tip that we have for you guys is to send out offers to watchers. If you're not doing this, I know there's some talk online about whether it's effective or not, but it's a tool that eBay has, so why not use it? And you're able to send out offers to anyone who has watched that item. So obviously they have some kind of an interest in it, whether they're watching it to see how much it sells for, or whether they're actually interested in purchasing that item. If you send them an aggressive offer, the chances are that they're going to accept it if they're really interested in it. I know I've talked to a lot of other eBay sellers, and they do this first thing in the morning. So they're trying to get that sale right out of the gate every day. So they'll do their offers to watchers like first thing, even before they get out of bed in the morning, and they're trying to get that first sale to get things moving. There's a lot of theory out there that, once you have one sale for the day, more sales will roll in. So if they have to send out some offers to get that happening, then they're happy to do that to get more sales later in the day.
Yeah, I feel like with the offers, so if somebody watches your item, obviously they're interested. But sometimes people are on their phones and they're looking up stuff and they watch the item and maybe they have to go do an errand, or they do something to forget about it. If you are sending an offer, you're reminding them, hey, you were interested in this item. So here's 5% off, or here's $5 off. And that really motivates them to buy that item. And it's something that is a really good feature when you're doing send offers to buyers on those items. You can do it on your phone one by one, or you can go to the desktop, which is what I usually do. And when you go to your active listings, you can see the tab that says send offers eligible. You can click on that, and then you can bulk send offers. That's what I do. It's way easier because we might have 10 watchers. Therefore, if I go and do it in bulk, I can just send 5% off to everyone. You can choose whether you allow them to counter offer, which is a good feature. So maybe you have an item where you're like, I'm not going to go any lower than $25. So you can give the dollar off to make that item 25, and then they don't have the option to counter. Or you can go in and say, here's 5% off this item, and then it allows them to counter back. Maybe that's still not low enough for them, and maybe they'll counter back with, another 5% off. The next one, have you ever done? It's eBay lets you send coupons to buyers.
Yeah, I have sent a couple out actually.
Did you have any luck with sales?
No. So I might have done it wrong. I was following some instructions that I heard about on this other podcast, and I sent out, I think it was an offer to previous buyers. It was a coupon that I sent out to previous buyers, and it was for, I think it was like 10% off any item in my store. And it was mostly to see, go through the process of doing it, gearing up for Q4. But I think you can really tailor the coupon based on who you want to send it to, which items you want to send it out on, obviously the amount off, or, percentage off or dollar amount off. So you can really kind of play around with it and customize it based on, what your needs are at the time.
Yeah, we've done it once. I sent a 20% off coupon to people who are actually following our store. It could just be the people following are probably other resellers that are interested in, looking at our store, seeing what we're selling, which is fine. Did not see any sales come in from it. So I feel like coupons are probably better if you have more of a niche store. Say that you sell antique items. If you send a coupon to the past buyers, then they're more likely oh, I remember I found that antique item at that store. Let's go see what else they have. Mm-hmm. But if you have an everything store, it's so hard on eBay for buyers to go in and try to find an item, because not all the time is the item in a specific category that they're looking for. Because you can, when you have your eBay store, you can choose to have your store categories, have it sorted by that, or by eBay categories. So I think it's a little bit more work on the buyer end to sort through all your items in the store. So if you were niche and selling something more specific, like even vintage graphic t-shirts, those buyers I feel like are more likely going to spend the time looking through your inventory than if you have like just random items everywhere.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It is kind of daunting for people to sort through, hundreds and hundreds of items, but I think you can tailor it to like a specific category. So something that I was thinking was, especially around like Q4, maybe like toys or Christmas items or whatnot, that might generate some more activity for you if you use the eBay coupons.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then also I was reading up. So another thing that you can do to boost sales is have a newsletter go out to people who are following your store.
Mhm.
And then you can actually use the coupons, create a campaign, showcase like some of the newer items that you have. So it's almost like that gives them a little bit more information instead of just a coupon. And the newsletter is something that is brand new. We have not done it ourselves. It's very interesting to me. I'm not quite sure how it works because I've never gotten one in return. Like with the sending watchers an offer, I've gotten one from another seller. So I'm able to see as a buyer what that looks like. With the newsletter, I would believe it just gets emailed to them and then it will showcase what you want to showcase. So maybe the coupon you want to send them or the campaign that you're running. Maybe you're running 20% off your store. Maybe you got a bunch of remotes in your store that you want to showcase that, hey, I've got these new electronics in. But that's just another thing that eBay recommends that you use to try to boost sales. So they are giving you a lot of different tools, and especially these newer tools that you can try, and maybe that will help with sales.
Yeah. So if any of you have created a coupon or a newsletter, definitely reach out to us or leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're really interested in seeing, especially what that newsletter looks like. So maybe we can take a look at what you've done in the past. That would be really cool to see. So the next tip that we have for you guys is to create a promoted listing campaign. I didn't realize that this was a thing when I first started selling on eBay. I was just kind of promoting my listings at whatever percentage I thought I should promote them at, not realizing that you can create different promoted campaigns and then throw your listings basically into one campaign or another. What I found is that if you have, let's say, 100 items in your store and items 1 through 50 are in, or 1 through 49 are in campaign A, and then 50 to 100 are in campaign B, then you might see that campaign A kind of starts to dwindle a little bit and you're getting less sales on those, that first bulk of, batch of items. Whereas the campaign B is just like rocking. So you can kind of end the promoted, the campaign A and throw them into campaign B, or create a different campaign for those 1 through 49 items to go into and see if that can, boost the items. Because sometimes I think the campaigns do go stale. So that's something to consider doing.
Yeah. And then part of that is like the markdown sale. That's what I do a lot. Usually on the weekends to try to boost sales, I'll go in and I'll select, you can select categories. Maybe I want to put all of our holiday decor on sale because I want to try to get people to buy those and give them, more incentive if they're getting a percentage off. Or maybe I'll go in and select all of our items, put them at 10, 15, 20% off and see if that will boost sales. And it's been kind of hit or miss for us. The most we've gotten is like $500 in sales on a promotion, which is still really good. That was at like 10% off, I believe. But I think just going in there and anything that you can do to show eBay that you're trying to lower prices, run sales, send coupons, that's still to them. That's being active on eBay. That's what you want to do. So if you're listening, try just a markdown sale on your entire store. Even just put it at 5% off. See if that helps boost sales. See if that helps you get more watchers. Maybe people are sending you offers, things like that.
A tip that we're going to give you guys that might be slightly controversial. If it works for you or if it has in the past, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. There are these kind of bots out there. They're eBay view. It's like the eBay viewer or watcher bot. And I believe it's housed in the Discord app. It's something that you would have to pay for, but basically what you can do is send your listing to this eBay watcher bot, or viewer bot rather. I think there's both actually. A watcher.
Yeah, there are. So there's the eBay viewer, and we only know this information because we were in a leads group and they offered these two bots in there. So there were different channels. So you would go in and let's say you wanted the viewer, you would go in, you would find the URL for your particular listing that you wanted to have more views on. Let's say I had a ceramic Christmas tree because the holiday's coming up, and there was a lot of competition on that item because a lot of people are posting their holiday items. I would find the URL for that tree. I would put it in the channel of the viewer bot, and then it would automatically start adding views on your eBay page. Everyone thinks if you're doing that, eBay says, wow, this item's getting a lot more views. Let's boost this item up to the top.
I've used it on newer listings, and I've also used it on some of my older listings that might have been stale, just to kind of give them a little bit of a boost before I do like end and sell similar. And it has worked in the past, but now there's some changes with eBay and how they, I think they reset the viewers or watchers every 30 days, is it? I think it's every month. In order for that to work, you're going to have to consistently do that for your listing. So a lot of people recommend doing it as soon as you list the item. So it's like, you list it and then 30 seconds later, you have, 100 views on the item. That signals to eBay, like Liz said, that, oh my gosh, this is a really hot item. We should push this up more in the search. People are seeing this hot item. You might be able to trick the algorithm that way. I know that it also has not worked for other people. Use at your own risk. If you want to try it, go for it. And if you don't, the episode's full of other tips and tricks that you can use too.
Yeah, but that you're right with the way that they consider what they consider a view right now. So I don't think that tool is as successful as what it used to be. And then the other one in the Discord of the group we had was the watcher. So it's kind of the same thing. You would take a URL, you would put it in there, and they would add watchers to your item. Once again, you're just using bots to try to trick the algorithm, make eBay think that your item is more desirable, boosting it up in the searches. Like Ashley said, it's controversial. Some people think it's wrong to do that and use bots, and other people are like, well, we've got to try to get our item to sell, and we're willing to do any of the different hacks to try to get it to be sold.
So if you think there's value in paying for that service, by all means, check it out and see if it works for you. But Liz and I, we haven't used those in about over a year, I would say now, right? It's been well over a year since I've used either of those things. So I'm not really sure. I'm not up to date on, like Liz was saying, what eBay considers like a full, like an actual view or an actual watcher anymore. I know that they have mentioned before that they're cracking down on, bot-like things. So use
at your own risk. We're just the messengers. We're just suggesting these things. Okay, one of the things that I have tried to do that people always say they're successful with is running auctions on older items. I mentioned before, you have a start date for items. I like to go into eBay, into the active listings, sort by start date. And if it's really, really, really old inventory, I'll actually end the listing and make it an auction item with hopes that somehow somebody is going to buy that item. I usually start them at 99 cents or up to like $2.99, $4.99 for larger items because I know shipping is going to be big. And then I also include shipping for those items. So I don't have them be just 99 cents because I'm going to get burned on the shipping if I only have 2 bidders. I tried this with 30 items recently. It was a lot of clothing, a lot of the older clothing that we didn't make very good buying decisions on. And out of the 30 items, I believe only 10 sold. And only 3 of them sold for more than what I listed it at auction. So a lot of them sold for $2.99 plus $5 shipping. They were first class, so it was clothing. So I knew if I did $5 shipping, I would cover it. And I just wanted to do a test and see. I think with auction items, it's been very hard for us to get the ones that are just common items to sell. So like I said, the brands where it's not selling probably because it's got so many other items that are like it. And if you're not the lowest price, people aren't going to buy your item. I've
Mhm.
had more success with rare items. I ran that auction with those Series 2 surprise. What was it?
The LOL, or was it LOL surprise?
Yeah, one of those, it was one of the hot items.
Yeah, they're like these little yellow balls that have a bunch of little plastic toys inside of them. A couple years ago, kids were going nuts over them.
Yeah, but I ran an auction on those, and the auction actually did really good. So I feel like auction is a good thing to do to try to move old inventory. You're not going to 5 times, 10 times your money, but you might at least be able to break even of the cost of goods, get that item out of there. And then I really feel like the one thing it did do, it did help with sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I might not have gotten through all of my old inventory, those 30 items, but that weekend that I ran all those auctions, we actually had really good sales that weekend. I sold more of the items that were listed versus the auction items.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use this as, a tip to boost their sales and other items. So the stuff that you're thinking of phasing out of your store anyways, that you're going to redonate, or, you've had for a long time, you're trying to get rid of, you just want to make your money back or some of your money back and get your space back. This is a really good way to do that. And it's going to boost, your store in the algorithm as well. So running the auction, having those auctions, the people bidding on them, it's more activity for your store in the algorithm, and eBay loves that. So if you have items like that, try a couple auctions and, see how they do. How many days did you run your auctions for? Was it 4 or 7 days?
I did it 10 days. So I don't know, maybe it was the length of time, because we've mentioned before with eBay buyers, some of them are willing to wait, but there's a lot of buyers that go because they need an item. If you see an item and, it's not going to end for 10 days, kind of a long time to wait. But I did it to where it would end on a Sunday night. Usually if you can have it end on Sunday, it's better because there's more activity from buyers on Sunday because it's a weekend, people are sitting around.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think I've heard multiple people say that whatever the fastest option is, just because how fast people are getting things from other companies, Amazon and whatnot, the shipping is so quick. So people are definitely in a more if I'm going to buy this, if I'm going to bid on it, if I'm going to spend my money on it, I want the item as fast as possible. So try out a couple different things and let us know what your success is with that.
Now with our eBay store, we have all of our listings on 1-day handling time. But if we get a sale that day, we always print the label right away. And that's kind of a hack, because that's another thing eBay wants, is they actually want sellers to offer same-day shipping because they're trying to compete with Amazon. All the platforms are. And what's the one thing with Amazon? They have the Prime delivery, the 2-day delivery. So if you have a store and you have a sale, try to print that shipping label as soon as you can. Even if you're not going to drop off your item till that night, maybe you're going to use the night drop, do it anyways, because that's telling eBay, hey, I can get these items out fast. And eBay's going to be like, I like this seller because they ship right away, and it's going to make a happy eBay buyer, and they're going to come back to the platform and they're just going to buy more.
Yeah, exactly. Like if there's, 2 sellers that are selling the same item, and one person, when the item sells, one seller generates the label within 10 minutes, let's say, of the item selling, and the other seller doesn't generate the sold label until the shipping label until the next day after the item sells, eBay is always going to give preference to that first seller because they're shipping, quote unquote, or generating that label as fast as possible versus the other sellers waiting till the next day. Even if you can't ship the item until the following day, you can change in the settings, like when you go to generate the label, what your ship date is going to be. And I believe they give you a couple of options. I know the next day is available because I've used it myself a few times. I think up to 3 days later is available. So it'll print the label for whatever date you choose on that drop-down setting. So your post office workers shouldn't give you a hard time about that either. Just make sure you change the date if you're not going to ship it out right on that day.
those were a lot of the tips that we had, Ashley and I. Let's talk about a couple of the different tips that we found other sellers on Twitter were recommending. And some of them I've heard of, and some of them I thought were very interesting, and I'm definitely going to try them. So the first one is from Tracy's Trends, and she does a store refresh where she goes to all of her active listings, she selects edit all of them. So you do this when maybe you want to go in and edit the handling time, edit a shipping preference, things like that. So she goes in, edits all of them, doesn't do a darn thing, and then submits them. So she's kind of tricking eBay, saying, hey, I'm going to edit these listings, make them better, change something about them, make them fresher, and then really she doesn't do anything. So she said it's worked a couple times. I was going to try that today, see if it works, see if I get a couple sales from it. But I thought that one was really an interesting one.
Yeah, I've never done that before. I'm going to have to try that as well. Let me know if that works for you, Liz. The next person that we have is New View Metrics. They said that they will raise the price of an item or promote it at a higher percentage, but they only promote items that they have competition on. So instead of lowering their prices, they're actually raising their prices. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
And then running the promoted listings at a higher percentage. Mm-hmm. So probably in their mind, they're thinking, okay, if I raise it $5, but then I also have room, I have money that can pay for me to raise the promoted listing. Because when you go from 3 to 7% promoted listing, then that's 4% more in a promoted fee that you have to pay. So That's an interesting way as well. All right, next one. My Name is Blaine tries the opposite, lowering by a couple dollars. And when they did that, they instantly got 5 more sales.
I think they did that over the weekend, they said, right?
Yeah.
All right. The next person that we have is Copus Malini, and they said that they will unlist 250 to 500 items. They'll relist as sell similar, and they also run a store-wide sale between 25 and 40% off, but they'll mark up the price of those items before they do that sale. I kind of like this tip because I think as a buyer myself, the lower percentages off or lower dollar amounts off, that doesn't really attract me. It might get me re-interested in a listing, and then I might send a counter offer. But if someone sends me a 25 or 40% off offer, somewhere between there, that's definitely going to get my attention. I'm not sure how it works. eBay buyers are really in tune and they're very observant. So if you're marking the items up before you send the 25 to 40% off, I wonder if they've ever gotten someone wait a minute, I know that this was $20 before and now all of a sudden it's, $30. What the heck happened here? So I wonder if they've had anyone kind of call them out on that. I've heard other people have gotten called out on that tactic before. So that's interesting, but I might have to try it sometime.
Yeah, I think what they do though is they run a store-wide sale. So they'll go in, they'll mark up their prices 25, 40%, but then they'll run a sale at 25 to 40%. So the item's still going to be the same price as what they had listed it at.
Gotcha.
And I think that would actually be a really good hack, because from there, then you can do some of the other tips we mentioned where you can go in and you can send a newsletter to all your previous buyers. Hey, we're running a 25% off store-wide sale. So that actually might be something that would work.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense then. Sorry about that, Copus Malini.
All right, the last one from Ken. He goes back to the idea of editing older listings, but one thing we didn't mention, which is very important, when you are going in and you're ending old listings, doing sell similar, don't just list it. Look at the listing. Look at the title. What am I missing? What can I go in and change? Look at what you have in item specifics. I've done that, and I've found in the title, we have that the shoe is a size 10. In the item specifics, it's actually 11. So we've messed up somewhere in the listing. There's an error. And then definitely in the description, look to see, what do you have in the description? Does it match what's in the pictures? And sometimes a lot of times the pictures need rephotoed. I did that with a couple, and that really helped them. They sold pretty much right away. Not only did I improved the photos. I worked on doing a better title, had everything correct in the description, the item specifics, and then I also priced it better. And that's another thing when you are looking at your eBay listings, trying to figure out why stuff isn't selling. Go back and do a little bit more research. Find out what is that price at now. Because you could have listed it before and now maybe people aren't paying as much for those items. So don't be afraid to go in and do more research. Look at how many are listed, look at how many are sold. Try to figure out what can you do to that listing to improve it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned looking up the item to see maybe your pricing is a little out of whack. Maybe it's not going for as high anymore. I'm also oddly suspicious of items that are priced too low. It makes me think like maybe there's something wrong with them that the seller isn't disclosing. So you might be too low, and maybe raising the price a couple bucks to be more in line with the other sellers could benefit you as well. And one other thing that I just wanted to add is when you're doing the ending and sell similar, when I have done that before, or like editing listings, I've come across listings that item specifics that I am 110% sure that I filled out are mysteriously gone. They've just totally disappeared. If you're listing on desktop, which is highly recommended when you're listing on eBay, there's a lot more to fill out on desktop versus on your phone. And there's also this little blue circle. So when you're filling out the required item specifics, that blue circle will fill in blue the more items that are required you fill out. When all of the required item specifics are filled out, that circle will be solid blue. And it's like, great, you've unlocked a level. When I go back in, I know when I listed my items that I filled in that darn blue circle. And when I go back, maybe a couple months later, it's like half full. Like, how did this happen? So I make sure that they're all filled out again, just really like working in your eBay store, working in your business is really important to make sure that, eBay is a platform that we are lucky to have, but it's not perfect. There's issues with it. They're always working on it. So make sure that you're aware of what's going on and checking on your listings.
Last tip I have for that one is not only looking at like item specifics, but also what category that item is in. I have found that it's not selling because I have it in the wrong category. Yeah. Maybe I have a woman's shoe and it's accidentally in men's shoes. Double check the category as well when you're going through that old listing.
Right. Because sometimes it pops up when you're listing an item, it recommends a category and you're like, oh, shoes. Yeah, that's cool. That works. And you didn't really realize like, oh, it's a men's shoe. This is, it's actually a women's shoe and it throws it in the men's category. So that's a great tip.
All right, I think that was all the tips that we had for today on how to boost your eBay sales. I think there was a lot of good ones in here, ones that we have tried before, but there's a lot of them that we haven't. So I'm excited to go and try some of the ones that some of the resellers on Twitter suggested.
We also just wanted to take a second here and thank everyone who has supported the podcast and our YouTube channel so far. It really means the world to us. If you didn't realize that we're on YouTube, we are also on YouTube. If you want to watch us struggle through these episodes sometimes, that's always fun. Please subscribe, follow, rate us on the podcast platform of your choice. We really appreciate it, guys. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
Anything we mentioned in this episode will be linked down below in the show notes or description down below.
Be sure to share this episode with anyone you think it will help and follow us on social media at P2D Podcast.
Thanks again for listening. Keep working towards that day check.